Greetings to you, Alexander Nikolaevich. Greetings to you too. And turning to you is a big request to explain to us the new technological tools that have appeared in our country. The World Bank has the order of Hospitallers announced the issue of the world's first gold cryptocurrency. The bank also created the first world crypto bank on its platform. We would appreciate if you could specify and explain how it differs from various platforms that already exist. We'd like to know what are its advantages. What can you tell to us? We all understand very well that a very difficult period of crisis is currently underway. Not only financial, but also systemic crisis in all spheres of organized being, ideological and religious principles, and within that, of course, also finances, because finance is a basic energy that, in principle, regulates all exchange processes, trade relations, all levels of life of our nation, our country, and the nations of other countries in the world. Because the energy that allows a person to carry out payment and exchange processes everywhere, all over the world, is built on finance. And of course, before I answer the questions, I'd like to explain a bit about what's happening now. And the following is happening. There is one system. There is no such system or that system. There is only one. And in that system, there are destructive fiat structures. And these destructive structures are devoid of any energies. They have no meaning of existence, as they draw and create soap bubbles. And these soap bubbles are only created for the purpose of global fraud. This means to ensure that the means of payment, which are located and accumulated in certain wallets, can go to those who created those soap bubbles. And they then destroy soap bubbles and lead to the creation of another soap bubble. And with the help of these waves, criminal and destructive ways, a fiat financial structure was created under the Jamaica Accords. The Jamaica Accords initially meant a very clear production and use of fiat funds for intended purposes, for project financing, and also for proper capitalization schedule. So, as always, they laid it out correctly. Only the administrators, the coins and Jews, who were behind many financial institutions in this financial environment, which they penetrated and took over, used, unfortunately, everything completely opposite. What does it mean completely opposite? That asking control of the correct use of fiat funds, in quotes, empty money, no money, but funds, currencies, which from the beginning, in order to acquire their liquidity, M2, M3, M4, they had to go through the process of creating some value, material value. And when a material value is created, the currency is considered processed. It moves to the next category, including to the M9 money category, which is money for trading, that has already fulfilled its mission and function of capitalizing any project or program within a given scope. It can be said that empty money began to be filled with value. So it was implied from the system that when such financing of addressable project was to take place using, I'll repeat it again, empty fiat money. So when the capitalization process is finished, when the fiat money has completed its process, then the value it has created should be backed up in the system by being written onto the balance sheet of the system banking gold to cover this fiat money that has completed its role. So, in terms of management, in general, especially after the signing of the Jamaica Accords, completely ignorant people came who do not understand the system, do not understand money, do not understand and do not know the basics. They are just to get to control some already created electronic mechanisms, in the form of monetary mechanisms, in the form of payment systems. They simply started engaging in criminal activity, creating more money from money, creating more fiat money for fiat money, and creating more emptiness out of emptiness. The universe and nature do not tolerate such phenomenon. These phenomena are without any logic, including when you also take the current logic regarding cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin and others. What does it imply? It implies that fiat money, such as US Treasury bonds, enters the banking system through Morgan Chase and the Federal Reserve Bank. In this banking system, these bonds acquired a highly leveraged conversion. This means that the increased emptiness of these debt obligations will not appear yet. The numbers continue to increase. That is, this air bubble was being inflated. And what began to appear wasn't money, but currencies, fiat dollars. And these fiat dollars were introduced by certain systems into the economy, into the banking system, including manual loading, because at the same time there were no automatic gates. The Fed created such a criminal system called cash. This criminal system is not based on normative legal act, on any international act, or on any sovereign act. A fraud was simply carried out. A certain circuit was created, which was in no way automatically linked to other levels of the global financial system, such as blue screen, gray screen. As a cash field, it existed separately. So there was a guy sitting there who used to run the Federal Reserve Fund. That is, he was the CEO of the Global Assets Foundation of the Federal Reserve System. It was Tierna Lasamba Joseph who was sitting in the mountains, under protection, under civilians, in an unspecified secret place, where after the delivery of the screens, he would manually insert them into this cash field, and that's how this money got into the chip system. And the chip system already served all the payment system that a person can use in stores, in warehouses, and use them as cash. So there was a whole financial system that they disconnected, and that they made a cash system. And they loaded it into this cash system manually. This is a criminal activity that has been stopped. I want to say that soon this cash system will not exist in consciousness at all. So imagine what was made based on this empty dollar, when blockchain technologies appeared and when people started creating some cryptocurrencies that have such stable crypto units. But the real difference lies in the technology itself. That is, in the viability of the server system that maintains these units of these wallets, and so on. Although this is a very risky situation. Later, I will tell you what the risk is. So imagine that in order to make this cryptocurrency process regulated, they used the same scheme for these so-called coins that they once used for dollars. This scheme was created before them. They used it and made, so to speak, a virtual crypto dollar. Today, this is one called USDT. What does this crypto dollar imply, and what is the fraud? I'll explain it. So, there are crypto platforms, cryptocurrencies, which are interconnected, and there is a circle of banks and bank accounts to which these means of payment are currently received. M9, where for now we left money for trading in the system, so that people can buy bread in the store. However, with these amounts that we left in the cash field, M9 directly cannot start a world war, which is what we try to achieve, to withdraw funds from the enemies of humanity, so they don't use them to start the World War III. In this so-called lower bank fee circuit, and in the circuit that connects it to crypto platforms, the so-called RAM connection, which allows the transformation of fiat money into cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies back into fiat money. This connection is called RAM. The crypto dollar was invented as a past, that is, as a driver in this system. crypto-dollar, which is called USDT. In reality, the dollar doesn't maintain the USDT exchange rate, but quite the opposite. USDT currently maintains the exchange rate of this fiat dollar. I just want to inform people that in reality, all the so-called exchanges that exist today are practically in the same hands. They are criminal organizations, and these exchanges do not fulfill the function of exchanges. They are regulated manually, using buttons. All those trading indices that failed a long time ago are simply kept in manual mode. As the media does its job, they lie to all other countries and people that this means of payment is worth something. So they came up with the idea of keeping the dollar, so to speak, the empty dollar, afloat. This is a short-term scheme, while the meaning of the bubble is as follows. All of you should know, all fans of cryptocurrencies, what is actually happening now regarding USDT. Well, and in general regarding Bitcoin, which I find perverse and insane. And regarding these new hybrid cryptocurrencies that were invented by this Abidal Lodge and the Rockefeller clan, along with the BlackRock before their definitive demise, which they planned. So, what's the trick? The trick is that when a person buys USDT cryptocurrency, they transfer fiat money to some account. Fiat money goes into this account. This fiat money should automatically, as they say, create and reflect this crypto money, which is called USDT. Cryptocurrency, which is called USDT. This fiat means of payment, not money, because money is treasury bills. So fiat currencies coming into this account are someone who owns it, and it's owned by those who have now usurped it for themselves and created this USDT cryptocurrency. So that's where the money is collected, and this is where the reflection of this USDT happens. But this is a simple bank fraud. This is mainly used by criminal banking clans. Money is collecting in a big stream, and this is all reflected in USDT. People have this USDT in their accounts on crypto platforms. They convert it into any other cryptocurrencies, so to speak, but USDT is a path and settlements through which all conversations and transformations of payments of other cryptocurrencies take place, and through which the cryptocurrency platform and the fiat bank account platform are connected, that is, through this account. And believe me, what's happening there now? They've poured a huge amount of capital into the cryptocurrency space, and they did it all through USDT. So huge amounts of fiat means of payment, fiat currencies were accumulated in some accounts. And these currencies were of course stolen for the criminal clans that organized this so-bubble, this affair, as they left only such a percentage of fiat currencies in those accounts to ensure payment liquidity. But they are very, very afraid that people, owners of USDT and other cryptocurrencies, will now start converting cryptocurrencies into fiat money, but the money is no longer in those accounts. The money was already stolen. The bubble is already inflated as well. They dug everything out of it. And it turns out that they will come again with a claim that you are laundering dirty money, that you have no rights to do this. Where did you get these cryptocurrencies? They will block everything and you will have nothing. So people who jumped into this cryptocurrency scene with large amounts of money are now living in illusion. The illusion in those electronic wallets, where they see bitcoins, where they see USDT and they think they have a huge amount of funds available to them. At a certain time, they can do anything with it. However, that's completely wrong. Currently, throughout the converting fiat money into cryptocurrency is largely controlled by banks and central banks. Why? Not for the purpose of whether you're laundering money or something else. How can you launder $50,000 worth of money? You will not be able to launder any money. However, they will already be asking you questions with the aim of stealing this money from you, blocking it, and so on, because you represented a danger to solve this bubble that they've already created. And that's why they make up all kinds of passions so that you don't even transfer over the 50, 1,000, $5,000, as they'll be closing and closing it until they generally win you over the fact that you have some cryptocurrency and can use it. That is what it all leads to. Why? Because the basis of everything is emptiness. Emptiness, that's fit. If there is an emptiness, then in this emptiness, you reached for it so much, you worked on it, so you will stay with it. A connection with this. We understand very well that these are still the remains, so to speak, of banned organizations, the likes of BlackRock and other financial fraud organizations. And not just financial organizations, meddle in politics, hold the media, and have control over many things. Currently, BlackRock is stripped of all status of controlling business, controlling media, and controlling finance. It no longer has any status. Now BlackRock is just trying to somehow get out, come up with these new fraud mechanisms, and somehow still exist. It will fail to do this, and all contractors who work with BlackRock will end up in destruction, and will be held criminally and spiritually responsible. I warn you, be careful. I wish you health and happiness and wisdom to understand how and whom to choose as your partners. That's why I want to tell you about this Bitcoin so bubble. And what exactly is Bitcoin? Imagine that an empty US bond was issued. So an empty, inflated cryptocurrency was created, which is called, for example, USDT. Then they made the same empty Bitcoin. And when I saw the announcement that this empty Bitcoin should be... No, they practically obliged Citigroup to issue some more bank bonds for this empty Bitcoin. I was amazed. I understood that managers who are in psychiatric hospitals are probably much more professional, more logical, and more responsible than those managers who are currently engaged in this, so to speak, fit financial structure. Therefore, my dears, I want to tell you how it all happened with these old bandits, so that you understand what happened over the last 2-3 months, and what is this new scam with these new cryptocurrencies that are now artificially promoting with the help of keyboards, highlighting them and trying to influence your consciousness with, and extract from you the remnants of working means of payment that they need now, at this moment, to continue committing crimes against humanity, to finance terrorism, wars, to finance everything. They need this turmoil on earth to organize themselves, because their time's up. They don't want to live, so they simply want to bring as many victims as possible, as much sorrow as possible to human race. Well, we'll try to make sure they don't succeed in practice. So the question that at one time when M1 and White Spiritual Boy directly took away all assets from world financial system in order to prevent World War III and stop destructiveness of this toxic anti-human financial system, or let's call it the structure of the financial system. So subsequently, they had a lot of inventions, stupid things, also USDT and other things that they were preparing. So all this content is certain blocking in space, as there will be no development in this direction at all. In connection with this, they closed the following position. They thought that blockchain technology wouldn't yield to consciousness, not artificial intelligence anymore, but to consciousness, that already regulates artificial intelligence of bright consciousness. So they thought that it would not yield to M1, that M1 couldn't affect the blockchain technology, and in the blockchain technology, with the help of these crypto products, they would be able to organize some new type of empty fraud, through which they would be able, so to speak, push payment options and functions for humanity. Of course, that's very stupid. I'll explain why. So, what did they do then? They stole boxes from the A1 warehouse, which were brought cheaply. That is, they stole boxes with bonds, with valuable historical papers, and so on, which were on the basis of our one resolution number 4, already stripped of all coverage and all assets. But they don't know how to read it, so they grab them. However, once they grab them, they had to insert it somewhere. And since their financial system doesn't accept, they gathered IT specialists, took over Binance, took over the Bitcoin scams they originally developed, and said, let's insert it all in. It's empty, without energy, without assets, these stolen papers. We'll just insert them now, and we'll announce that on their basis we've produced this cryptocurrency, the so-called Bitcoin. And the amount of money they initially declared was only $1 trillion in Bitcoin. In fact, it was a scam. They produced roughly $20 trillion into this Bitcoin. And what a surprise! To produce this Bitcoin, you can't supply $20 trillion at once. You have to organize whole wallet systems. These wallet systems must be certainly loaded, distributed, and the crypto product created in this way should be distributed to the wallets. And these systems were to be managed by the clans that gathered there, those anti-human criminals with the help of this Bitcoin. They understood that the dollar, that monetary law, no longer exists for them, and they cannot issue either the dollar, the euro, or anything. So they switched and converted the budget of the United States corporation to Bitcoin. And after that, when they got this whole thing done, they declared to launch it and get it moving with the help of the BlackRock and the media and the world space. And that is a new pretty good step for business and for everything. And there everyone should try to put the rest of their online business money, so that it can flow again. And as is so bubble, it is fraud. But it happens so that God's providence is not limited, and practically wiped out all these wallets in the blockchain technology that they had been building for so long. Reports began to emerge that so many thousands of traders had been liquidated. And then there was an announcement that more than 7,000 traders were laid off. But how can they fire a person who has his own wallet, who employed and hired this person? But the media and BlackRock are spreading this nonsense, and people listen to it, that BlackRock is in control of something. Jews have this habit of claiming that it was them, always, no matter what happens, it was them, nobody else, just them. In reality, only lies come from them. Virtually no harm has been done to people who own cryptocurrencies, except for scams where these wallets were stolen. Today, statistics says it's 52 to 54%, as those destructive wallets of those criminal clans were wiped out. Subsequently, these criminal clans, as they control and stand behind pseudo-officials in the US corporation, in various monetary commissions, they came out in a criminal, gangster manner and said, and so did the IT guys, how far they've come, do you understand? And they invented a new scam, that based on that, what they put there, that had it all before as well. But they are not to blame. IT experts are to blame. Citigroup, you want it or not, but prints the bonds. But without them having even a single Bitcoin, even when you look at it, without them having anything, what did they do? You'll see the bills how much electricity was consumed by America, England and so on. Practically all of this electricity went to mining companies. Here is your bill, this is how many Bitcoins we had. And this is where the movie started. 3 tape recorders, 2 televisions, when the clan sat down and started talking about how many of their drawn criminal numbers had disappeared. So they got to not 20 trillion, but 220 trillion. So you understand what kind of idiocy this is, what kind of provision it is, what kind of consciousness is to be able to declare this whole thing. As they blamed it all on Citigroup, as Citigroup had to issue these bonds based on that. The president of this commission, which was convened manually, declared several times himself, "We approve it, but I don't see what we approved. I don't see Bitcoin. And what is this Bitcoin actually? What is it backed by?" Then they declared that they didn't approve anything, and they approved some completely different cryptocurrency. Then a third statement came out. There was always a fight between this criminal entity and those, so to speak, criminal underlings who tried to resist somehow. They knew very well that they were committing international financial crimes. At the moment, the situation has arisen that there is no definition, no commission, that couldn't confirm that cryptocurrency can never be a guarantee of anything. It can only be means of payment, type of means of payment. However, it cannot be reserve currency. And as one of my IT guys who is not so well versed in money, but understands the whole crypto thing very well, said, "Alexander Nikolaevich, I can understand what can be backed by this empty cryptocurrency, because it's not even air. Air can be measured, weighted, it simply exists, but there is practically nothing there. Therefore, this so bubble that is currently created with Bitcoin and other products that BlackRock is promoting so much, all of this will now lead to a big burst of this soft bubble. And those who don't have common sense, those who, so to speak, earn something or stole something and put everything into this bottomless pit. So all of you, excuse me, there is such a Russian expression, fool non-fool. So in your case, you are fools. Sorry, but that's how it is. Another moment, you quite rightly ask the question, why was the cryptocurrency in the world, which is backed by gold, created? I want to explain to all people what cryptocurrency actually is and how it works. Now I wouldn't call these things cryptocurrencies. I would simply call them crypto. I would skip the currency, because the word currency immediately means it's not a wallet. It immediately means a bank account, but there is no bank account. There can be no cryptocurrency. There is only crypto, just a unit that depends on the technology. I usually ask an ordinary cryptocurrency user, in order to buy any cryptocurrency today, crypto, you register on some website, you create your crypto wallet, there is a name, you have a password on this crypto wallet, and it may be known to you from your perspective. But where are those servers? Where are those responsible persons who guarantee you safekeeping of this cryptocurrency of yours and your fiat money, which is M9 means of payment, which you paid for this crypto unit? You have no such information. So if you lost the PIN code, the password of your wallet, no one will replace anything for you. Your wallet is stolen. No one will restore anything. If they stole only part of funds from your wallet, nobody will restore anything for you either, because you have no legal form to claim anything at all. It's your risk, technology risk. If the server with the blockchain burned down or something else, then you also have nothing. Your billions, millions, or some money also burn. Forget about them. Move on and search for a better life. So, what is the gold cryptocurrency? What kind of cryptocurrency is it? When the global sovereign bank of the Order of Hospitallers issued a gold cryptocurrency by M1 decree and created the first world crypto bank, this is absolutely and fundamentally different from those risky crypto platforms that you've been drawn into. But in what way? First, to produce AXM, the sovereign bank has the order of Hospitallers from the systemic banking gold it holds, and which was issued by the World Sovereign Bank as the order of Hospitallers, and which was confirmed and fully verifiable based on Resolution number 1, performs the resolution of world reserve currencies. As this issue of the world's reserve cover currencies consists of the golden dollar, golden ruble, and golden PQ. The golden dollar was determined as a base. The golden dollar, based on this resolution, means that $1 is always stably equal to 1 gram of XCU gold, systemic balance sheet banking gold. And this reserve gold cryptocurrency, by steadily and continuously carrying with it the composition of this gold, was deposited into the account, the securing account of the new gold cryptocurrency crypto XCU AXM. To be precise, 1 billion golden dollar were transferred to this account. 1 billion golden dollars, where the dollar is equal to 1 gram. As a securing cover account is inserted as an issue cover account and is blocked in the bank system. And based on that, the blockchain technology produced the corresponding amount of crypto XCU AXM cryptocurrency equal to 1 billion crypto units, where 1 crypto equals to 1 golden dollar and automatically equals to 1 gram of the systemic balance sheet banking gold. And this is guaranteed by the bank. This information is absolutely accessible to other banks, to the entire financial system, and also to owners and users of cryptocurrencies. So this is the first thing. And this cryptocurrency, in any case, regardless of how this bubble will fall, if you save your funds in this gold cryptocurrency, you'll always have the value of 1 gram of 1 systemic balance sheet banking gold preserved. And that is the standard that is and always will be. Secondly, CryptoBank. What exactly is CryptoBank? Unlike all platforms that practically do not guarantee you any security, the World Bank has the order of Hospitallers allows you to open a bank account and crypto account in your bank office. And now you have not only crypto, but cryptocurrency, because it's in your account, it's maintained in your bank office. You can open USDT account, and you can also open an AXM account. The conversion between USDT and AXM accounts in your bank office is automatic, where 1 AXM costs 100 USDT. Conversion in both directions takes place absolutely proportionally. Therefore, the only thing is that if you store your money in your account in USDT, in crypto dollars, then in case of collapse of fiat dollar and crypto dollar, and that will happen, you will lose your energy of gratitude, your means of payment. But if you keep your money in AXM, it will always be kept in gold. Next, what will happen in contrast to this risky case? When you open this account, you will automatically receive a message from the bank about opening an USDT account and about opening an AXM account, which means that you have a bank account. That is a different bank responsibility. These are not any responsible websites that do not guarantee you anything. This is not crypto platforms and wallets that guarantee you nothing. You had your wallet and you lost it. You won't be able to claim anything from anybody. This is a bank account where you always have everything protected, and you have access to its entire history, which is very important. In the back office, you always have confidential access to all your accounting statements. That is, account statements, information on account transactions, monthly, 3 monthly, half a year, yearly, 5 yearly, plus the entire period of its use. You're always in control of what your funds were used and for where you made transfers, where your funds came from and so on. So you have an official bank document that already gives you certain guarantees that your wallet won't be closed or disappear anywhere. And the most important thing, the technology. The point is that the Sovereign World Bank of the Order of Hospitallers has its own crypto platform. And the technology of the crypto platform theoretically and practically excludes the possibility of any hackers or third parties to get into your account or get into your account and steal funds from there or steal your account. This is simply excluded. Technologically, it is even theoretically excluded. The next step is also important. And what needs to be understood is that when you open any bank account, when you become a client of the World Sovereign Bank of the Order of Hospitallers, you automatically become a shareholder of the World Sovereign Union of Cooperation Like Great Russia. The World Sovereign Union of Cooperation Like Great Russia is a sovereign company. It is protected by the law of the sovereign, which stands above Roman law and admiralty law, and which is protected by international standards and laws of joint stock consumer, cooperative companies and unions. So what does it mean? It means the following, that not a single prosecutor, not a single president, not a single so-called central bank has the right to even request information about you in the sovereign field. They have no right because you have already entered the sovereign field. If they send such a request, that request is already a criminal offense. The request itself, and not even talking about the response they would get. Therefore, when you open this account, you become a shareholder of the sovereign company, and all other norms are below you. They don't regulate you. You are governed by the law of the sovereign, the natural law of God. And you are also regulated and coordinated, so to speak, by the international norm of joint stock, consumer, cooperative companies and unions, which prohibits the release of any information about shareholder without their written or oral permission. You understand what I'm talking about. So, the money you transfer into your account, or someone transfers into your account, in one way or another, in any case, a payment is classified as a share deposit. What is a share deposit? Share deposit is an absolute payment to which the controlling authorities, based on Roman and admiralty law, have no right to apply and frames or doubts about share deposits. Because this is how law is structured. This is how the law of the sovereign is structured, and cannot be violated from the level of Roman admiralty law. And secondly, it cannot be coordinated and changed from the level of Roman admiralty law. This means that it's stable protection of you, your energies of gratitude, which we call money, and of your possessions. Then, when you buy something from your account, as a Sovereign World Bank of the Order of Hospitallers and its system, then this payment from your account to any other bank that is not member of the World Sovereign Union of Cooperation Like Great Russia is classified as a share ownership of a sovereign country. This means it is the #1 purity of money in the world. Do you understand what I'm talking about? These things you should know. And when you know these things, when you understand them, you should be able to answer correctly any question that any bank or central bank asks you. From what I said here, write a document that you're a shareholder of the Sovereign Union of Cooperation, that the money you transfer is a share deposit and cannot be subject to compliance, and the money you pay when you buy something or transfer from system of the Sovereign Union of Cooperation Like Great Russia is #1 purity of money in the world that cannot be doubted. These are very important points. Basically, I explained a little about what crypto XCU, XM Gold, cryptocurrency is, and I said how it differs. This is practically a very good step in the transition to the gold standard and in blockchain technology as a modern means of payment. All other cryptocurrencies are practically banned by M1, and they will all collapse in the near future. This means that manual control, this fake, artificial, so to speak, maintenance of non-existent trading indices, which is now carried out by these criminals, who are deprived of all rights, but continue their destructive actions, this option is simply dead. The end. It's a corpse. And with this option, they only pursue one goal: to steal your market money, the remnants of it, the M9, that is still working in the chip system, that is in the cash system, and to get it from other people and financial groups who understand little. They are simply set this way: to steal, steal and steal, to inflate bubbles, pop them, pop more bubbles. But before, they had such a disruptive technology because there was cash replenishment. But today nothing can be put from the global finance system into the cash system. This is closed. Now it's blocked by M1, White Spiritual Boy, and any attempts to steal assets and money from your accounts will lead to fatal and total consequences for those who try. All money, all assets have already been withdrawn from under this destructive fiat structure in the world financial system, and newly were all transferred in the new issue to the World Sovereign Bank of the Order of Hospitallers. In general, the word asset comes from the energy world. Where there is energy, there is activity, they are active, they put movement, space and consciousness into the system, as it's called. As this artificial intelligence begins to accept these assets because they have an appropriate energy and are properly used. Now, this is a very important point. All this active money is today in the World Sovereign Bank of the Order of Hospitallers. Now there is a process of transformation and transfer of this money to those countries that are, in principle, these elites, but they are far from elites. Let's put it right, these schizophrenics, who consider themselves elites, have written off many nations, tribes and clans. Many countries have been divided into categories, and they want to clean up and eliminate these categories. This means they are simply involved in murdering people on Earth. Thanks to God that people in Europe and everywhere else started to wake up and genuinely understand who they are. They are actually the ones who run in everything there. They don't have children, they talk nonsense. Their every step is directed against people, against the nation. Their every move. For the last 30 years in the territory of the Soviet Union, nothing has been done by this English company Russia Federation, which we have now taken over, healed and redeemed, and by these so-called named leaders, who are all associated in the Baton Lodge, headed by Michael Rockefeller. Nothing has been done for the benefit of the people. It is a criminal lodge, and its members are criminals. They are criminals, they are terrorists, they are all outlaws, and so are their tools, like BlackRock and all others, who in principle controlled and were the main controlling body in the international industrial and financial corporation Earth, which was once headed by already eliminated cyborg David B.G. Rothschild and his entire gang. We must understand that this age of human enemies on Earth is over. Humanity is completely free. Humanity must realize it, accept it, understand it. One must understand that there is no need to live in emptiness. Because if you, yourself, are empty, if you live in emptiness, in this fiat emptiness, then you turn into emptiness. That's why you have to do everything right. You have to switch to the gold standard, because the gold standard is completely clear. It's based on the understanding of not that gold that in the movies, where with the help of murdering each other and by spilling blood, they take it from each other. No, these pieces of metal are empty. All these metals and pieces of paper printed on the surface, they are stripped of activity. They are not active. Gold is a good driver, but you have to put an asset there, as that will be done by the spiritual level of management. This little eye above the pyramid, that the Rothschilds and Rockefellers invested a lot of money in to demonize it. They turned this little eye from an earthly control system into some kind of nightmare. And other bloggers have picked it up and are using it without even knowing what is what. That they are all our symbols, that there is a yin current, a yang current, an earth pyramid. Why don't you draw the Egyptian pyramids, that they are bad, or the Ural pyramids, the Siberian pyramids, the Asian pyramids and so on? This is simply nonsense and stupidity. The ignorance that this Kabbalistic Hollywood and all their destructive propaganda, along with BlackRock company, have put into your head. This little eye that is above the pyramid, that is separated by the airspace, that is exactly that spiritual control. That is exactly the spiritual, the whole spiritual boy. It is simply impossible for these human enemies to penetrate this spiritual management. It is also impossible for them to understand this spiritual management, because they have their own primitive destructive technologies. But humanity, their living consciousness, has higher, heavenly technologies that the parasites are unable to understand. All of these technologies are within you, my dear nation, my dear beloved people. You're just not aware of them. You've forgotten how your childlike fairy tale consciousness turns on. They've plunged you into destruction and despair, and that's a huge and terrible mistake. A mistake is a sin, as the Greeks used to say. This means that this is a terrible mistake. This is a terrible sin. Get out of this state. Turn on your consciousness. Everything is done for you. You will see how the entire monetary system will develop in the future. How the RA, MO, and 1XCU system will develop. That is, the one system and Bank of the Order of Hospitallers, the State Bank of the USSR, and so on. All this is done for people and for you. And you'll get all this, and you'll use it all. Without any bastards who are concerned with domination instead of power. Power is people. Keep people in harmony. Domination is humiliation, oppression of humanity. This domination was carried out by those cyborgs who are not humans, not living objects. They have no soul. In general, even the erasure of non-living object doesn't fall under the nefarious things, not even from the category of criminal or civil code, and so on. Alexander Nikolaevich, I would like to turn to you as the Chief World Treasurer to explain something to us. Along with the World Sovereign Bank of the Order of Hospitallers, which announced and issued a gold cryptocurrency, the State Bank of the USSR also announced its readiness to issue its state gold cryptocurrency. We know that the RAM code has been assigned to this cryptocurrency, and we would like to know what benefits and what the introduction of such a gold cryptocurrency will bring to us, to our country, and to our people. Okay, that's a very valid question. This question is practically the same as the one I answered a while ago about crypto-XEU, AXM. Cryptocurrency which has already been issued in the State Bank. I'll answer to this as well. The fact is that the State Bank of the USSR is practically the second crypto bank in the world, with its own sovereign platform, just like the Bank of Hospitallers. It's not one platform. There are two different crypto platforms that are integrated and implemented into the classic software banking system. And all the same advantages that I explained with the Bank of the Hospitallers are preserved with this bank as well. But there are other things. If the Bank of the Hospitallers, as a sovereign, announced it in the world space, then the Soviet Union is the only sovereign country in the whole world today, because all other countries have simply turned into corporations, and as their development didn't go up to Almighty God, but even down, plunged into admiralty law, trade, commercial law, and turned into these companies, corporations, where, of course, man has already become a neutral person or something. In general, it is a complete destruction, stupidity and lies. Let's put it this way. So, what's good about this Soviet cryptocurrency? First, it's state-owned cryptocurrency. When it comes to a state cryptocurrency, just like the gold Soviet ruble, which has both status and confirmation, in addition to being confirmed by M1 as the main owner and regulator of the entire world financial and banking system, it was also confirmed by the World Sovereign Bank of the Order of Hospitallers. As a sovereign bank, that is the main regulator of the world banking system, the main historical bank, as the general manager for the management of all global assets. In addition, it was also confirmed by great sovereign land, USSR, as a state. As the RAM cryptocurrency issued by the State Bank of the USSR is already backed up by the gold Soviet ruble, the reserve currency according to the same ratio, 1 gram of gold, 1 RAM, as I already explained, and it also has a state status. What is it needed for? Why was it done? The fact is that today we see the crumbling remains of this fee structure of the banking system, and it's a normal process, it has to happen. And against this background, we have to provide an alternative. Provided by the third transitional model system, a gold standard system. What we do is basically set out in M1 documents, resolutions, regulations, and another decrees and orders that M1 issues in this regard. All these processes are described there, and the process of transformation and transition takes place. Therefore, both in the World Bank of the Order of Hospitallers and in the Bank of the USSR, there are several monetary layers. For now, there remains the layer of uncovered fiat means of payment, because people cannot be left without the possibility to buy bread in a store. And there is also a layer of transitional currency. That is, for example, the dollar, which is called USDB. Why USDB? USDB is a dollar and B is Basel III, partially backed by gold, according to Basel III, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 standards. This is another currency that already has the right to function normally until the end of 2025. And there is also a gold layer, where there is cryptocurrency, where there is a reserve currency and the state eternal currency, which according to the decrees of the highest body of state power of the sovereign, the Soviet Union, the State Committee on the State of Emergency, according to the laws of war, was already designated as a property of the Soviet Union, represented by the State Bank of the USSR, banknote of the Bank of Russia. Because Russia is our word, it doesn't belong to any English or any Arabists. RSFSR has always been Russia for us. Russia is the center of Rus, as that's how it was. That's why it's sung, unbreakable union of free-born republics. Great Rus has willed it forever to stand, except that the age is not 100 years, but 1000 years. So you need to understand it better in order to expand your understanding in this direction. That's why there is such a moment that in order for there to be a proper possibility of international payment liquidity, of Soviet money, Soviet funds, this state cryptocurrency was made. And the point is, I think it already works. I just need to verify it. That RAM cryptocurrency can easily buy AXM, and AXM can easily buy RAM. And this is how all payments can go through. You have to understand that the so-called sanctions, which are very strongly supported by the American company Central Bank of the Russian Federation, which are strongly supported by the American government of the Russian Federation, and which are strongly supported by the American Kremlin of the Russian Federation and everything American. Why? Because that's how it was made. During these 30 years, control was carried out exclusively under British, American, and Jewish supervision. This means that it is such a criminal conspiracy, because virtually the American corporation itself is under the influence of Zionism. England is also under Jewish direction, under the influence of radical Zionism, through the Rothschild family. It is the center of Zionism, under the control of neighbors the Jewish priesthood. And the Vatican too. These all are Zionist centers. These all are Jewish Zionist centers, whose aim is to seize the bright mankind. It is a conspiracy to destroy humanity. I already told you about them in another interview. It's a deep topic. Now let's not get distracted. Let's talk about finances. Today we must understand that no one can impose sanctions on the Soviet Union, because, first of all, it's sovereign. You cannot impose sanctions on it. You cannot claim debts from the USSR. It is sovereign. It itself can recognize the debt or not. As a sovereign, you can always demand repayment of the debt. And no matter what fraudists in the form of the Jewish American and Russian Federation have done, together with Chabad, with these Hasis of the Chabad sect, which today have transformed Russia into a place of endless synagogues. And in any case, the Soviet Union, as a sovereign, will always be right. And it is indeed right. But the Soviet people, for some reason, don't understand this happiness of theirs. They save this theater in their heads, in which they lived for 30 years. It's funny. I compare it to the movie Santa Barbara. Someone came there and became a citizen of the company, and doesn't even want to read documents. Some of our citizens have unknowingly lost reason. And I feel sorry for them, to be honest. I look at them and I say, don't listen to me. Get the basic documents. Use legal logic. Read, study. We are not talking to you from behind the fence, somewhere, or from the basement. We are talking about absolute legal facts, which are in the documents. You just need to know how to read them. This must be understood. You just need to have a common sense. Wake up. Get out of the zombie state. What is a corporate citizen? A company has no citizen. Company has goods. Therefore, a sign on the forehead, on the hand, and so on. That's how it is. This means that a person becomes a commodity. They've already made commodity out of the smaller brothers, the animals. And now they want to do the same with the face of creation, with God's children, with mankind. But that won't happen. They won't get away with it. Therefore, no one can impose any sanctions on the Soviet Union. No one can impose any sanctions on the State Bank of the USSR. No one can claim that all the citizens of all these companies that are present here, as that were created on the sovereign territory of the sovereign land, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, all these so-called people who have some document that is just a fraud to cooperate with this corporation, which steals these documents, then no one can say that they are not citizens of the USSR. Those who were born in the USSR and even in the 90s, after 2000s, are still citizens of the USSR. Even now citizens of the USSR are born. Every citizen of the USSR is the owner of their country. They are the owner of the country's assets, which they constantly sell. They still sell them, but now they don't pay anything for them. They do not have the financial ability to pay. Now they just stupidly export oil and gas abroad and exchange them for I don't know what. First of all, the funds they receive abroad are blocked by the system. They are blocked. From there, they only get some pennies. Generally, they just export it for free. Take people's property, our property. In addition, now the question has been asked, will we exchange it for bananas? There is a certain Gabelton in England, a lord who is the king of bananas, he has declared that the whole banana business belongs to him. So to exchange energy resources, oil products and gas for bananas with Lord Gableton, exchange for flowers, definitely. Well, people learn to eat flowers and start to make thorns out of roses, something like that. So the madness of the cities, perverts and mindless schizophrenics has no imaginary boundaries at all. All this is just a perversion. I can't call it anything else. And you know those FSO analysis centers, other analysis centers, does anyone have consciousness there? Is there anyone there who has a mind, a soul, at least one notch in the brain? It seems to me there is absolutely nothing there. There is destructive stupidity. There are destructive morons competing who comes up with the dumbest thing. This is the whole system. So, let's get back to your question. I've colored the situation a bit so you can understand what's going on and how it actually happens. I want to tell you that about 8 months ago there was a speech by Antony Blinken when he was called to the UN General Assembly to explain on what basis they are organizing sanctions against a member of the UN Security Council, the Russian Federation, which is a member of the Security Council. This violation of UN protocols requires the approval of the Security Council. Blinken stops them. Wait, what are we talking about? About the Soviet Union or the Russian Federation? If we are talking about the Soviet Union, that's a superpower. Its citizens are sovereign and free. They can freely move around the world, buy whatever they want, and so on. We don't have the right to organize international sanctions against the Soviet Union, because it's a member of the UN Security Council and the main founder of the UN, and organizing these sanctions would require a decision of the UN Security Council. That's the minimum. As it is still questionable, sanctions are imposed only on the basis that it existed. Now we have bought it, healed and redeemed it. I repeat, it was such an English company, the Russian Federation, which was registered in the Virgin Islands. It was a British corporation on the sovereign territory of the USSR. It was a governing corporation with the chairman of the so-called government, a private government with private security companies in the form of all these pseudo-government bodies, and with the president of this corporation. It was designed to trick people into thinking that there were some elections going on. And as for United Russia, I remember 7 years ago I asked what the voter turnout was like in the elections. It was 10%. 7 years ago, I don't even know what the turnout is. On what basis can they do certain things at 10% turnout? As they rated it was 90%. In general, it's not just a lie, it's separatism, extremism and terrorism. There are no other words to describe it. Recently, Antony Blinken has clearly emphasized that these are sanctions, in quotes, of a sovereign country, meaning England, as a sovereign country in relation to its corporation, the Russian Federation. Do you understand what's happening? People who persistently watch all these propaganda channels cannot understand that in both cases everything is organized by Jews. On this side and on the other side, these are Hasidic sects. They are doing all this. Chabad Lubavitch is a performer in this whole circus. They don't have money anymore. They take the last money from the bazaars. They somehow forge all these means of payment and try to continue this dogmatic theater of destroying humanity. It's all. It's over. This theater is closed, and I've got a recommendation for you. For persons who put on the masquerade of exercising the function of state power, of the sovereign territory, of the great of the sovereign, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The State Committee on the State of Emergency has already carried out a reform, an international reform. Please read it carefully. I've read these documents myself. They're excellent. The rules are right. Everything is absolutely right. Everything is on the legal platform, and you have to do it. Take it into account, because it's impossible to continue with this darkness. Humanity is awakening, and you can stop it. Not with the weapons that you installed like the antennas and use it to influence people. All these technologies will be stopped. You will have no means of manipulating and controlling the bright mankind. You will receive a just retribution of light from people and humanity in full. In full, trust me. It won't be as merciful and compassionate as you think. Therefore, I urge you to come to your senses and switch to a more or less adequate format and invite at least a few adequate people to your companies as advisors who will tell you the right things, how to move forward. There are many of them among ordinary people than in your neighborhood. Therefore, there is only one way out. The Soviet Union, Russia, the RSFSR, and all the people who are here, and even those who are working now against Russia, it is precisely those who shout for Russia, who basically work against it without understanding it. Some don't realize its doom. So, in this regard, I want to emphasize to you that there is only one way out. The State Bank of the USSR, it already has money, absolutely correctly, and absolutely secured by legal regulations. After being processed by all systems, the money is already in the accounts of the State Bank of the USSR. The money is ready for the country, for the people, for programs, for sharing the country, republic building programs, environmental programs, industrial programs that our country and our people need now. This fake organization, the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, which is controlled from Washington, as well as all those who cover this gang, all these actors, they have very little time left. I think before long, if they manage to escape, it will be very good. That's why the last time I'm addressing to you. And I want to say that this cryptocurrency, in state-owned, is very necessary. It will be one of the possibilities of international settlement, a bridge between our banks, as well as protection of funds, energy of our beloved people.